Imagine stepping into a boxing ring to face uh, the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
Oh, that's a terrifying thought.
Right. I mean, you know you don't have their punching power. You definitely don't have their multi-million-dollar training camp. But you have a plan.
A very desperate plan, probably.
Exactly. And for half the fight, you execute that plan flawlessly. You dodge every haymaker. You neutralize every single advantage they have.
You're basically holding them to an absolute standstill.
Yeah. But here is the cruel twist. You are only in this precarious position because you weren't legally allowed to fight in your own hometown.
Ouch. Yeah, that hurts.
You've been stripped of your single biggest asset before the opening bell even rang.
Well, I mean, that dynamic completely reconfigures the psychology of a match, doesn't it?
It really does.
You're trying to pull off this historic upset in a sterile environment that actively works against the kind of chaos an underdog really relies on.
Welcome to your custom deep dive. Today, our mission is to decode a very specific, highly revealing 90-minute clash.
We're talking about the August 17th, 2026 Greek Cup second qualifying round match.
Yes, where Super League heavyweight Aris FC defeated Super League 2 side Anagennisi Karditsa 2-0.
Such a fascinating game.
We've pulled together this detailed tactical match analysis alongside the rich, century-spanning historical profiles of both clubs, because the goal here isn't just to recap a scoreline.
Right, no, we want to look deeper.
Exactly. We want to figure out the actual physical mechanisms of how a top-tier football giant systematically dismantles a stubborn defensive wall. And, what this specific game reveals about the modern reality of two vastly different Greek football institutions.
And beyond just the tactical breakdown, this match really forces us to confront how modern infrastructure rules are inadvertently changing the very nature of cup ties.
Yeah, it's a collision of history, tactics, and bureaucracy. Okay, let's unpack this and set the stage because the historical context here is just staggering. This was the first official competitive match of the 2026-27 season for both clubs.
Fresh out of the gate.
Right. And in one corner, you have Aris FC. For those who don't follow Greek football religiously, this is a top-tier Super League powerhouse from Thessaloniki.
And their nickname is literally the god of war.
Named after Ares from Greek mythology.
Yeah.
And that's not just, clever marketing. They have
Right.
3 Greek championships to their name, 1928, 1932, and 1946.
Their pedigree extends well past domestic dominance, too. I mean, if you look at their European history, Aris held this almost incomprehensible 28-match undefeated home record in European competitions.
Wait, really? 28 matches?
Yeah, and that streak spanned from 1968 all the way to 2020.
Over 50 years. That's insane.
Right. Half a century where teams like Benfica and Perugia traveled to Greece in the late 70s and simply could not find a way to win.
That has to build a specific kind of DNA within a club.
Oh, absolutely. Aris is an institution with a massive, highly demanding fan base. They don't just expect to win matches against second-tier teams. They expect to completely dominate the tempo, the possession, and, well, the physical space on the pitch.
Right. So then in the other corner, you have Anagennisi Karditsa, known as the Canaries. They are this fiercely proud club, currently fighting in Super League 2.
And they have serious history of their own.
They really do. When we talk about historic clubs, we usually mean the 20s or 30s. Anagennisi was founded in October 1904.
Wow.
To put that in perspective, the statute of the club was personally signed by Crown Prince Constantine I. They predate Aris, who were founded in 1914, by a full decade.
So they are a foundational pillar of football in their region of Thessaly.
But this brings us to the structural disadvantage we mentioned at the start. For this cup tie, Anagennisi Karditsa was officially drawn as the home team.
Right. On paper.
On paper, yeah. Yet the match was relocated to Makedonikos Stadium in Nea Efkarpia. The reason? Anagennisi's actual home, the municipal stadium of Karditsa, was deemed unsuitable for spectators under current regulations.
Which is just brutal because it removes the single greatest equalizer in a domestic cup competition.
The hometown crowd.
Exactly. When we analyze why massive upsets happen in these tournaments, the tactical deficit between the teams is almost always bridged by environmental hostility.
It's the concept of the mythical 12th man, right?
Yeah.
But I guess, how does that actually work mechanically on the pitch? Is it just noise, or does it physically alter the game?
Oh, it creates a measurable biological and psychological shift. What's fascinating here is think about the physiological toll of playing a low-block defense against a superior team.
It's got to be exhausting.
You spend like 80% of the game without the ball, merely shifting side to side, closing down angles. Your lactic acid builds up faster. Your lungs burn.
Right.
But when an underdog is playing in their own ramshackle stadium with 5,000 locals hanging over the fences screaming for every single slide tackle, that noise provides an adrenaline buffer.
Oh, wow. So it literally masks the physical fatigue.
Exactly. It pushes a player to close a 3-yard gap in a split second when their legs are otherwise dead.
So by moving the game to a neutral, potentially sterile venue, you're stripping Anagennisi of that adrenaline buffer. It's exactly like that boxing analogy. You're forced to fight the champ, but instead of your gritty local gym where you know every squeaky floorboard, you're in a rented, neutral ring.
Yeah, you have to rely purely on your technique rather than emotion.
Without that localized energy, Anagennisi's manager, Apostolos Karalimpides, had to rely entirely on cold, calculated defensive discipline.
Right. His squad didn't have the luxury of riding a wave of crowd momentum. They had to be absolute tactical perfectionists just to survive the opening stages.
And remember, Anagennisi's fans are a legitimate force. Back in 2008, they mobilized a record 2,000 away supporters for a third division playoff game in Athens. Stripping that away makes the mountain infinitely steeper.
Which makes the reality of the first half completely mesmerizing.
It really does. Because despite losing their stadium, despite the massive wage disparity and the talent gap, Anagennisi didn't just roll over. They executed a masterclass in how a lower-tier team neutralizes a giant. The halftime whistle blew, and the score was 0-0.
A scoreless draw at the half is a massive psychological victory for the underdog, especially considering the firepower Aris put on the pitch.
Yeah, let's look at that firepower. Aris, managed by their new coach Michalis Grigoriou, rolled out a very aggressive 4-2-3-1 formation. You have high pedigree players out there, Rafa Mir leading the line, Gianniotis providing width, Uros Rakic anchoring the midfield.
And paper, Aris should have been slicing right through them.
But here's where it gets really interesting. I want to push back slightly on the narrative here. We always hear about the sheer dominance of top-tier teams, and we praise the underdog for defending well. But didn't Aris look a bit toothless here? Yeah, I mean, a team with a Super League wage bill shouldn't need 45 minutes of sideways passing to break down a second-tier defense. Were they playing too cautiously, or was Karalimpides just executing an unsolvable puzzle?
Well, it is tempting to look at a stagnant first half and blame the favorite for lacking urgency. But I would argue Aris wasn't toothless at all. They were acting like a master safecracker.
A safecracker, I like that.
Yeah, consider the alternative. Lesser teams, when faced with a stubborn defense, start to panic around the 30-minute mark. They get frustrated by the sideways passing.
Right, they get impatient.
Exactly.
Okay.
So a center back pushes too far forward, or a midfielder takes a low percentage shot from 40 yards out. The moment you break your own tactical structure out of frustration, you give the underdog a chance to counterattack.
Oh, I see.
Aris didn't take the bait. Grigoriou kept them rigidly in their 4-2-3-1. They methodically turned the dial, testing every tumbler, waiting for that one tiny click of a mistake. They trusted the math of their superior physical conditioning.
Okay, that makes sense. But let's break down the mechanics of the puzzle Anagennisi presented. What does a flawless defensive wall actually look like in this scenario?
It's known as a low block. Imagine the entire Anagennisi team retreating deep into their own half, sometimes keeping all 11 players within 35 yards of their own goal.
Wow, that's tight.
Very. They are purposefully shrinking the physical space on the pitch. They compress the vertical distance between their defenders and their midfielders to just a few feet.
They essentially build a human thicket.
That is a perfect way to visualize it. Aris's elite wingers, like Gianniotis, rely on having open grass to sprint into. But when Anagennisi drops that deep, the grass just disappears.
Every time an Aris player looked up to make a penetrating pass, they weren't seeing angles, they were seeing a wall of bodies.
Anagennisi made the game ugly, they made it incredibly physical, and they walked into the locker room at halftime having proven they belonged on that pitch.
But the reality of playing a safecracker is that eventually the tumbler clicks. And wow, did Aris's patience pay off. The tactical deadlock we just described was shattered almost immediately after the break.
This is the definitive turning point of the match.
Right. In the 49th minute, just 4 minutes after they walked out of the tunnel, Noah Fadiga scores the opening goal for Aris.
And that single goal fundamentally rewrites the physics of the game for Anagennisi Karditsa.
It's like pulling the foundational block out of a Jenga tower. Suddenly, the entire defensive structure Anagennisi had painstakingly built for 45 minutes has to be completely abandoned.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it exposes the inherent vulnerability of an underdog once they fall behind.
Because the core objective shifts.
Exactly. When a Super League 2 team plays a Super League giant, their entire strategic foundation is built on keeping the score at 0. The moment Fadiga scores, Anagennisi can no longer sit back and absorb pressure. They have to actively chase an equalizer.
Which introduces a lethal catch-22. To get back in the game, you have to expose yourself to the exact thing that can destroy you.
That is the tragic reality. Lower-tier teams rarely have the offensive firepower to go toe-to-toe with a Super League club in a wide-open game. To threaten Aris's goal, Anagennisi had to decompress that human thicket we talked about.
Right. They had to push their midfielders higher up the pitch, commit their fullbacks forward,
and leave space behind their defensive line. The moment you do that against a team with the speed and precision of Aris, you are essentially opening the vault door for them.
And we saw that exact vulnerability materialize. But it happened in the most heartbreaking way possible for the underdog. Let's look at the 66th minute. The contest is effectively killed off, extending Aris's lead to 2-0.
But it wasn't an Aris player who scored it.
No, it wasn't some brilliant sweeping counterattack from Rafa Mir. The final blow was an unfortunate own goal by Anagennisi defender Panagiotis Anastasopoulos, wearing number 55.
It is the ultimate cruel irony of the sport. You dedicate your entire physical and mental being to keeping the ball out of the net, and your own touch betrays you.
So what does this all mean for the players involved? Put yourself in Anastasopoulos' boots for a second. You play a heroic first 45 minutes against the god of war. You are executing a flawless low block.
The adrenaline is pumping, you're shutting down million-euro attackers.
Exactly. And then not only does your team fall behind, but a cruel twist of fate off your own foot effectively ends the cup run. How does a defense recover from that in the moment? I mean, does an own goal happen because of bad luck, or is it a symptom of that structural shift we just talked about?
This raises an important question about mental fortitude and physical exhaustion. It is almost always a symptom of fatigue compounding a structural shift.
The physiological toll again.
Right. For 45 minutes, Anastasopoulos was hyper-focused, operating in a tight, compact unit. Once Fadiga scored and Anagennisi had to open up, the physical demands completely changed.
Suddenly, he's defending an open space. He's making longer recovery runs.
The lactic acid floods the legs. And remember, the adrenaline buffer from a home crowd is completely gone because of the neutral venue.
Ah, right. It all ties back.
When the legs get heavy, the brain gets a fraction of a second slower. An own goal in the 66th minute isn't usually a lack of skill. It's a cognitive lag born of sheer exhaustion. Your foot arrives a millisecond too late, the angle is slightly off, and the ball deflects into your own net.
From that point on, you could see the dynamic completely flatline. Aris simply strangled the life out of the remaining minutes. They kept possession, took 0 risks, and managed the 2-0 cushion to the final whistle.
In the immediate aftermath, it's devastating for the underdog. The instinct is to drop your head. The physical fatigue feels 10 times heavier because the emotional reward of a potential upset has just been snatched away.
The match just becomes an exercise in damage limitation.
It does. But the true recovery doesn't happen in the final 20 minutes of that game. It happens in the manager's office on Monday morning.
How does Apostolos Charalampidis frame this for a player like Anastasopoulos?
He has to entirely separate the result from the process. He pulls up the video of the first 45 minutes and says, look at what you achieved here. You frustrated a Super League powerhouse. Your defensive positioning was flawless.
So Anastasopoulos didn't fail. He just experienced the brutal, razor-thin margins of elite football.
Exactly. Charalampidis will take that defensive organization, that ability to suffer as a unit, and use it as the bedrock for their lead campaign.
That reframing is crucial because the final whistle of this 2-0 cup tie isn't just the end of a single match. It actually serves as the definitive starting gun for both clubs' 2026-27 season campaigns. Let's look at the trajectories for the season ahead based on these 90 minutes.
Both clubs walked away from that pitch with something incredibly valuable, even if the scoreboard only favored one.
For Aris, this victory means new coach Michalis Grigoriou begins his tenure by securing cup qualification to the league phase. And, more importantly, he completely avoids the media drama of an early setback.
Thessaloniki is a football city that breathes pressure. The scrutiny on a club like Aris is just suffocating.
I can imagine.
If they had stumbled against Anagennisi, even a scrappy 1-0 win where they looked disorganized, the local press would have been relentless. The fans would be demanding answers.
A professional 2-0 win allows Grigoriou to actually build his tactical project in relative peace. He can implement his system without the noise of an early crisis. It wasn't a spectacle, but it was an incredibly efficient professional win.
That concept of efficiency over spectacle is the hallmark of a championship-caliber team. You don't need to put on a fireworks display in the second qualifying round of the Cup. You need to secure the objective while expending the minimum required emotional energy.
You know, there is a massive lesson there outside of sports, too. So often in life, we feel the pressure to over-deliver on routine tasks.
Oh, for sure.
You think you need a flashy presentation for a standard Tuesday meeting, or you try to reinvent a process at work that already works perfectly fine. Aris demonstrated that sometimes just getting the job done professionally without unnecessary flair is the most valuable outcome. Save the spectacular efforts for the finals.
And save your energy for the opponents who actually require it. By managing the final 20 minutes simply by holding possession, Aris ensured their squad walked away without injuries or unnecessary fatigue.
On the flip side, we have to look at the trajectory for Anagennisi Karditsa.
Yeah.
Despite the heartbreaking own goal, they carry the confidence of that defensive masterclass into Super League 2. And let's not forget the recent pedigree of this club.
Right. They are not a club content with just making up the numbers.
Not at all. They finished an incredibly impressive third place in Super League 2 during the 25-26 season. They even reached the Cup quarterfinals back in 2021. They are on a genuinely upward trajectory for a club founded in 1904.
That context is vital. They didn't get embarrassed by the god of war. They proved their tactical foundation is robust enough to absorb immense pressure.
Think about the psychological advantage that gives them in their own division. When they line up against their direct rivals in Super League 2 teams operating with the same budget constraints, Anagennisi's defenders will look across the pitch and know they face significantly worse threats.
If they can hold Rafamir scoreless for a half, they can handle a second-tier striker.
Exactly. It breeds a quiet, unbreakable locker room confidence. They prove their tactical worth, and you can absolutely build a promotion campaign on that kind of resilience.
Looking at the match from multiple perspectives, the relieved giant who executed a patient plan versus the proud but defeated underdog who proved they're worth it really enriches our understanding of football.
It really does. We've unpacked the tactical puzzle of the low block, the psychological weight of a 66th-minute own goal, and the historical friction between a 1914 Super League giant and a 1904 Super League 2 challenger. Thank you for joining us on this custom deep dive into the Aris versus Anagennisi Karditsa match.
It's a perfect case study of how the margins in football are dictated just as much by structure and patience as they are by pure talent.
But before we let you go, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. Something that builds on the tactical breakdown, but circles all the way back to the very first point we made about the stadium.
The loss of the localized chaos.
Exactly that. We dissected how the strict modern stadium regulations forced Anagennisi to play this game away from their true home, the municipal stadium of Karditsa. We analyzed the biological impact of losing the crowd's adrenaline. But think about the broader implications for the sport itself.
It's a huge shift.
We are talking about a passionate fan base that once mobilized 2,000 away fans just for a third division playoff game. If Anagennisi Karditsa had been legally allowed to host this game in their actual hometown stadium, packed to the absolute rafters with their own people, could that localized, desperate emotional energy have sustained their defensive wall past the 49th minute?
It's a fascinating what if.
Right. Could the deafening roar of a local crowd have snapped a fatigued defender to attention, preventing the cognitive lapse that led to the own goal? As modern football infrastructure becomes more sterile, more standardized, and more strictly regulated for safety and broadcasting, does that strictness inadvertently rob the sport of the chaotic environmental magic that makes ultimate underdog stories possible?
Are we sanitizing the very conditions that allow David to occasionally beat Goliath?
It's a structural question the beautiful game will have to reckon with sooner rather than later.